Silicon Valley: technology, art, green, and sustainability.
Welcome to Silicon Valley Tech, Art, Green, and Sustainability. Today I have with me a guest who's a returning guest. He was one of the first guests on my show, and I'm very honored. He's written books, he's been in many speaking engagements around the world, and his name is Eric Corey Freed. Thank you for coming today.
Well, thank you for having me back. So
Yeah.
I must have behaved myself the first time. So,
Yeah, you're great. You're great.
Oh, great.
As I Twittered and Facebook last night, that you're one of the best speakers in this industry, if not the best.
Wow. I'm not going to disagree with you.
You're awesome. So everybody that hasn't seen your new spiel has to come out. So it's been quite a while since you've been on the show. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing with OrganicARCHITECT.
OrganicARCHITECT is my design firm. I started in 1997, and I started out as a pretty typical architecture firm, I think. And then over the last 10 years or so, it's kind of morphed into doing a bit of everything, all revolving around sustainability. So oftentimes I'm dealing with a developer who already has an architect, and then I'm brought in to kind of fix it. Sometimes I'm dealing with a manufacturer who wants to train their staff about sustainability, and then sometimes I'm just dealing with people who want their house built, and kind of everything in between.
And commercial too?
Commercial, everything but healthcare, essentially. Just healthcare creeps me out, but otherwise.
And a lot's changed. You've moved.
Do you mean politically, or?
Just everything's changed for you, and you moved,
For
right?
me?
Yeah.
I do. I have this weird life now. After our daughter was born, we kind of moved down to Palm Springs, and now I split my time between San Francisco and Palm Springs. I wanted to get my carbon footprint as big as possible. I thought that was a good way to do it.
Do you fly? Do you drive?
No, we always fly.
Always fly?
And then I come back essentially every other week. I alternate.
And does your family come with you sometimes?
No.
Okay.
They stay in Palm Springs.
So 2 weeks out of the month, or how do you split your time?
Well, when I'm not traveling for other things too, because I'm also speaking pretty heavily about 70 events a year.
Wow.
So every week I'm on a plane somewhere, it seems.
70 events or seven?
No, 70.
70.
Like 30.
70.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's about 1.5 a week.
That's incredible.
Is it?
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of travel.
Yeah, but it works out well because I get a lot of work done on the plane and in the hotel, and I actually get more work done on the road than I do in the office.
So do you travel internationally too?
My wife lets me go on one international trip a year. So
and she gets to go too?
No, she doesn't. But it's a matter of picking which one I'm going to pick this year. I think she thinks I'm going to die in a plane crash. So I don't know why, but she does. So last year I went to Germany. The year before that was Barcelona. The international is fun because essentially what I do is stand-up comedy, and it's a whole. They laugh at such different things internationally than they do here in the States. And any time when I bash America, that gets huge, big laughs. And in the South, that doesn't get any laughs at all. So it's a kind of a mixture of, what I want to play up when I'm on the road.
And we were talking earlier about some of your families in Florida. So do you speak there a lot?
I usually go a few times a year just so I can visit them. And then they've all seen me speak. But my parents, they don't have any sense of humor whatsoever. I mean, I'm not joking. It's like...
Did you grow up in the East Coast?
I grew up in the East Coast, and they have no sense of humor. And my whole life growing up, when I was making wisecracks and jokes, they thought, that's not funny. And to me, that was hilarious. So it's fun to watch them come to the talks and hear all these people laugh and not really get why people are laughing.
Did you take classes in being a stand-up, or you just always naturally had this sense of humor? You were the class clown?
I was always pretty funny, but I have a lot of friends that did stand-up, and I think I just responded to that style. I found it a very effective style. Because think about it. All I'm giving you is bad news, right? Climate change and the Earth's falling apart and we're all going to die. And so what's the better way to give you that news? Depress the heck out of you, which I tried for years, and it's a hard sell, or make you laugh about it. And what I found is that by making people laugh about it, it becomes much more memorable. The trouble is that when you make light of serious topics like this, every now and again, usually once or twice a year I get a complaint letter from somebody that I've offended, and then I always respond to the complaint letters.
So your new presentation, Attack of the Dodo Sapiens?
Dodo Sapiens.
Dodo Sapiens.
Yeah.
So this has got more humor. I mean, your other presentation I've seen is amazing, and you're right. It's it's humorous. It keeps you listening and on your seat. So I can't wait to see that tonight, and we'll be checking it out tonight.
Well, while you're watching tonight, I'm going to be showing about 380 slides.
Wow.
So that's part of the style, is that it's all very fast-paced. I want the audience to feel like...
And video.
Yeah. But I want the audience to feel like at any moment, if they blink, they can miss something. I want them on their toes. I want them paying attention. So typically slides never up for more than 3 or 4 seconds. So it goes very quick. You really have to pay attention. And then it's all kind of demarcated with humor in between while I'm kind of shoving my socialist liberal agenda down your throat.
So, what changes have you seen in the design build world in the last few years? And again, it's been a while since you've been on the show, and there's been some changes in the industry, and right. Particularly in some of the events that happen and don't happen, and there's been little changes. So, what do you think? What's been the biggest changes? And
there's been some incredible things that have gone on, both from a bad point of view and from a good point of view. So for instance, the economic collapse of 2008, in one sense, a lot of people saw sustainability as this luxury, and once the collapse came, they couldn't afford it anymore. And in truth, it was the lack of sustainability and the lack of long-term thinking that really caused the collapse. So it's been a great opportunity for me, because a lot of companies that the old way of business wasn't working for them, they were suddenly open to hearing new business ideas. And when I can come to them and say, listen, I can show you how to make more money, how to be more profitable, and also do the right thing, they're now listening, whereas before they weren't. But on top of that, we also had things like Hurricane Sandy, and that's really changed the dialogue nationally. If you think about the governor of the state of New York is saying, we're going to have to build a wall around southern Manhattan, that's legendary. That's really a time to stand up.
And were you from New York originally, or?
I'm from Philadelphia.
Philadelphia, okay.
But I lived in New York, and it's alarming to think, well, this isn't Louisiana where there's a bunch of poor people. This is New York City. It's not supposed to happen here. There was that kind of mentality, that kind of hubris. And the worst part is they know it's going to happen again. They haven't fixed any of the infrastructure. They've just kind of brought it back to where it was, but it's still just as vulnerable and susceptible as it was before.
So you've been in business since the 1990s.
By the way, this is the depressing stuff that I was telling you about.
But it's exciting too, because there's so much change, and that's it's good. You've been in business since the 1990s. So what other changes? And like I always thought that, oh my gosh, he's so young. He's just out of college. He's just really talented.
Yes, I'm just out of college.
Yeah. So, but you look very young, and but you've got all that experience. And so, what other things do you see since the 90s that has really changed in architecture?
Well, what's changed is, if you think about it, we still build buildings the same way we've been building them for 100 years. If you really want to think about it, we're still cave dwellers. It's just that our caves have gotten a little nicer, but functionally they're still just shielding us from the elements. There's no intelligence to the buildings yet, but there could be. And the intelligence could ultimately be much more sustainable. So for instance, this room could know how many people are in it. It could understand the behavior patterns of when do people arrive in the morning, when do they leave in the evening, and it could then anticipate those behaviors and adjust accordingly. And not just in terms of controlling the lights, but in controlling the climate system, controlling the shades, and even really looking at ways to pull data out. One of the things I'm obsessed with now is this idea of gathering data in the building, and that data is potentially more valuable than the leases in the building. Think about it, like Facebook or Amazon or Google. Part of the reason why they're free is because you're the product, right? So they let you use the service in exchange for all the data they're collecting, and that data has value. A building's producing data too. It's just normally we don't measure it.
So looking out over here, Silicon Valley, we're kind of looking this way, the airport's that way. You look at the rooftops, and one of my goals is to go to Chicago and film with the green rooftops.
Oh, yeah.
And recently on my meetup group, which we have a meetup group, folks, come on out, there was a young architect couple. One's an architect landscaper, and the other is a designer. And he has a goal of helping Silicon Valley get more green roofs. Which I'd love to look out here and see green roofs as well. And we've got the climate for it. Have you been to Chicago much? Is that something that you're...
I go to Chicago a few times a year. It's a great city anyway, just in terms of food and music and people and culture. But it's amazing because every time you go, there's more of these green roofs everywhere.
Right. If you Google it and you look at, or Yahoo or whatever, you look at the roof line in the summer, because I guess in the winter it'd probably be snow or whatever.
Right.
It's just beautiful. I mean, it doesn't look like a real thing. There's so many green roofs.
And it's not only is it something very visual that people can enjoy immediately, but it does have a big economic payback. It can save your energy bill by about 40%. So it's almost dumb if you don't do it. But instead, we build these kind of boxy asphalt things that store a lot of heat and make a hot place like San Jose even hotter.
Right, and you look over the rooftops here, and most of them are white rooftops instead of the black that you would see in the 90s. And but wouldn't it be great to look out and have green?
Yeah, wouldn't you want to reconnect to nature? Wouldn't you want to see it at every turn? Why wouldn't you?
And then also could be a food source for some of the people that are living in the high rises.
Well, now you're blowing everybody's mind.
So, obstacles and achievements. I already know what one of your achievements is, but if you want to talk about that, you can.
Obstacles?
Any obstacles that you've found and how you've overcome them in the last few years?